Star Trek actor Will Wheaton has bizarre meltdown over Larry David's attack on Elmo. Quote, appalling, unforgivable, despicable. This story comes to us from Spencer Bakuli over at Bounding Into Comics. No, you read that headline right. Due to some very clearly unresolved personal issues, Larry David's recent attacking of Elmo on live television has drawn an explosive and legitimately angry reaction from Star Trek actor Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton's 51 years old, by the way. I didn't know that until we started reading through this information. He's 51. The moment at the center of the Star Trek Next Generation actor's vitriolic response took place during the February 1st episode of NBC's Today Show. Therein, during a discussion of mental health being hosted by Elmo and his father Louis, the puppet was surprise attacked by David, who was set to appear later on in the show to promote the upcoming last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Mr. Larry, Elmo liked you before, the puppet exclaimed in response to having his face smushed by the actor before inviting him to, quote, come back and talk about how you feel. They're not going to cancel the show for one last season, David playfully jabbed back. Met by the assertion from Today host Spencer. That's an honest typo, I know, but it reads, met by the assertion from Today hot Savannah Guthrie. I guess we know how our editor-in-chief feels about Savannah Guthrie, It's just a typo, don't worry, but it's a well-placed one, that's for sure. Met by the assertion from Today host Savannah Guthrie that he had, quote, gone too far this time, the Curb Your Enthusiasm creator shot back, somebody had to do it. Continuing the joke, Elmo's father then declared, I'm gonna sue him for assault. Later appearing on the show as planned, amidst his discussion of his HBO comedy's upcoming finale, David was pressed by Guthrie, quote, David, do you have something you want to say to Elmo, and from your heart? First joking, quote, from where? What organ are you talking about? The actor ultimately looked over to his fuzzy red compatriot and, holding back laughter, told him, Elmo, I just want to apologize. And he responded, that's very big of you. Elmo accepts your apology. There, it was all over with, or so we thought. However, despite the obviously playful nature of the entire interaction, Wheaton's own self-admitted personal trauma led him to take the entire event as a direct attack on everything from children's innocence to mental health awareness efforts. And then, in typical Wheaton fashion, he resolved to let the world know about it in the most unhinged way possible. Taking to his personal Facebook on February 3rd, the Big Bang Theory actor ranted to his followers, quote, so I heard about Larry David assaulting Elmo on live television, but I didn't watch until now because I knew it would upset me. It's even worse than I thought. What the is wrong with that guy? Elmo is like the best friend to multiple generations of children. In the Sesame Street universe, Elmo is a child who is currently putting mental health and caring for others in the spotlight. And Larry King David did that, and thought it was going to be funny. What an a-hole! What a stupid, self-centered, tone-deaf a-hole! But he's not done. Look at all this. Look, it's still going. No, there it is. There's the end. But we're going to keep reading it. It was then that Wheaton revealed the reason behind his angry response. Full disclosure. All the time when I was growing up, my dad would grab me by the shoulders and shake me while he screamed in my face. He choked me more than once. He was always out of control, always in a furious rage, and always terrifying. I'm a 51-year-old man, and my heart is pounding right now, recalling how I felt when I was a little boy who loved Grover the way today's kids love Elmo. So this is appalling, unforgivable, despicable act hits more than one raw nerve for me. And I'm going to say what I wish I had been able to say when this sort of thing happened to me. Here we go. Returning to the target of his ire, Wheaton chastised Larry David, this was not okay. And your obviously insincere apology clearly communicates that you don't get that. First of all, you aren't even in the segment, but you just decided to barge in and draw focus because why? You couldn't stand that a puppet brought people together in a meaningful way that you can't? You couldn't stand that your appearance on national television to promote your wildly successful series was delayed for a few seconds while the adults talked about mental health? You wanted to manufacture a viral moment where everyone gets to see what an a-hole you are. So they'll tune in and watch you portray an a-hole in the last season of your show that celebrates how great it is to be an a-hole without ever experiencing the consequences of being an a-hole. I really want to know what raced through his tiny little mind and why there was no voice or person who spoke up to stop him from expressing violence towards toward a children's puppet. Who was there to talk about how his love and empathy for people having a tough time mattered and made a difference? He's not done. In a near textbook example of irony, the actor then bleated, like, read the room, kid. It isn't always about you being the center of attention. And understand what's happening in the moment, go. Understand that there are larger things in the world than you and your garbage ego. His anger not fully vented yet, Wheaton next attempted to weaponize the segment's child-aged viewers, asking David, quote, you know who is watching the Today Show with their parents? Kids who watch the Sesame Street. Elmo is an avatar for children all over the world. Children who are too small to understand Elmo as a puppet will know that a man attacked someone they love for no reason, and that will frighten and confuse them. Elmo inspired a deeply meaningful and important moment of collective support among desperate people who have been struggling through the traumas of a pandemic, daily mass shootings, and the rise of fascism, and everything associated with Trump's violence and cruelty? I'm sorry, I just gonna take a second. Elmo? Elmo is standing in the way of fascism? Anyway, and idiot Larry David couldn't leave it alone. For some reason, he had to indirectly tell everyone who opened their hearts to a Muppet that they were stupid. And he thought it was a good joke to physically attack and choke this character who is beloved by children and adults alike. You know what that tells impressionable young people about sharing their feelings? Larry strikes me as a person who mocks and belittles people who are vulnerable and sensitive and enjoys being cruel because he feels untouchable. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's who I see whenever I can't find the remote and he's on my television. By contrast, Elmo and the Muppets teach and model to children all over the world that kindness and empathy aren't weak or stupid or any of the things people like Larry David and my dad think they are. Larry David isn't your dad. Larry David isn't your dad. Okay. Elmo and the Muppets teach children to be gentle and kind, to celebrate our different cultures, and to embrace all of our complicated feelings. Elmo and the Muppets offer comfort and friendship and support to a world that is starving for it. I hope when the dust settles, Larry David's appalling behavior will be a footnote in a larger story about how, for just one day, a Muppet made a difference and helped millions of people who are struggling to feel a little less alone. With one question, Elmo got lots and lots of people speaking openly and honestly about their mental health. A non-trivial number of people who none of us will ever know were inspired by it. And that was the last little nudge they needed to make the call or send the email to begin healing. Elmo probably saved lives and relationships by opening that conversation. A man who would belittle and mock that isn't much of a man at all. Shame on you, Larry David. And then we post this picture. The smug Larry. You know, he went on to one of the later shows, I think. I forget which one it was, but he was like, he says, I can't stand the high pitch. I just can't. And it's just echoing into his face from the other studio. And it just drove him nuts. I don't know about you. I don't want to do this in real life, obviously, but I had to sit through some Elmo stuff when I used to work with children and I used to babysit. So Elmo gets a little annoying about the 5th repeat over out of 10. Okay? And so when Larry David did that, oh, it was very cathartic. Like, finally, somebody shut him up. But we'll go on here. Unfortunately for Wheaton, rather than overwhelming agreement and support, his post drew a fair share of criticism, with many suggesting that due to his history, he was overreacting to what was very clearly a joke. But rather than offer even a moment of self-reflection, the actor instead demanded, quote, listen, if you're here to dismissively blather on about how I can't take a joke or it was just a joke or I'm too sensitive or however else or whatever else comes from your bag of invalidation, please just leave. Quote, a lot of us who had the same visceral reaction to a grown man putting his hands on a child, Elmo is 4 years old, in anger, without consent, and then laughing about it all, share an experience that you should be grateful you don't share with us. And when you say your little toxic, cruel thing, when you reduce the whole thing to a puppet and a joke, you are doing to us what the adults around us did when we were kids, and it hurts all over again. Are you really someone who wants to hurt another person simply because you can? Maybe make the impulse to be a jerk and take the impulse to be a jerk and redirect it into being grateful that you have no idea why this is so upsetting to so many of us. I'm sorry, I tripped through that quite a bit because Will was writing emotionally and it just didn't go well. So anyway, the link to read the whole thing will be here in the description below. You can check it out for yourself without all my little flub ups in there. Childhood trauma is a serious problem, right? As Will Wheaton has demonstrated for us right here, right now, you'd probably, need to get taken care of if stuff's happened, right? So that way Elmo getting smushed in the face by Larry David doesn't send you into this kind of spiral. And I'm not saying any one of you do this, but if you know anybody out there, right, that is suffering and needs help, there's people out there that'll help. And in all seriousness, there's people that'll help so that you don't end up plagued with the troubles that Will Wheaton has, the legitimate troubles that Will Wheaton has. And I mean that in all seriousness. I hope he gets help. And I hope that he can come down from the event that sent him into this spiral. I really hope so, because this is a dangerous mindset to have. He's very out of balance.